afternoon. My pleasure to welcome you to today's session. Today we're talking about getting jobs, basically how to build your CV and write your cover letter and show yourself in the best possible way to any future prospective employers. My name's Christine and I'm one of the trainers here on Google's free skills training program, the Google Digital Garage. Little bit distracted, I'm not going to tell you by the sun today. I'm from the north of England and we don't get it that often. So if I do start gazing over to the window, you know what's going on there. I'm a marketeer by trade. I've been involved in marketing since before it was digital. And as part of my role, I've worked for huge companies, I've worked for charities, and I've worked for a lot of smaller companies as well. I spend a lot of time actually working alongside smaller businesses. And one of the things, both for the charity side and the smaller business side, I've spent quite a lot doing in recent years is helping businesses and charities to recruit. So I'm hoping, I've also had a fair old amount of experience on the other side, on the getting recruited side. So what I'm hoping to do today is bring some of that experience all packaged up to you today. We don't do these things on our own. Alongside me today, I've got our wonderful moderator, Tessa. Now, Tessa is also one of our Google Digital Garage coaches and has also spent a fair old amount of time applying for jobs, successfully being taken on in roles. So she's got lots of advice for you, lots of help to give. She's also got some links to share and some extra things to add as we go along. So really importantly is to make the best use of the team available. So Tessa is in the chat right now. She is, you can tell you're talking to her moderator. She's got a little blue spanner next to her name. And if you want to pop in the chat right now and say hi, why not do that? As I say, if you want to join in with the chat, which I really hope you do, you're going to need to be signed in to your YouTube account. So you can sign up or sign in using just the little box up to the right there. Let Tessa know who you are, where you're joining us from, maybe a little bit about why you're joining us for the webinar today. And we would love to hear from you. Right, okie dokie, what are we going to talk about? So a little bit more housekeeping. So you can sign up or sign in using YouTube to join the chat. Any trouble viewing the webinar, best thing to do is just refresh the page. We are using closed captions today. So if you check out the CC, if you need to use the captions, they should be there for you by now. Also, I'm going to pause throughout the session. So as well as asking Tessa questions as we go, I will pause throughout the session to answer some of those interesting questions that she selects for me. So do get those in. The earlier you get them in and the more relevant they are to what we're talking about, the better that's going to be. We always get asked whether you can rewatch the webinar, and yes, you absolutely can. We tend to keep them live for about 24 hours. So until about lunchtime tomorrow, if you want to click on that link that you used to get here, and then you should be able to rewatch the video. If you, as I'm going through, lots of information coming at you, if you notice something that, that's what I want to remember, that's what I need to do, then jot down the time code of the video and that will really help you to find it again later. Okay, so let's take a think. What are we looking at today? So we're going to be talking about CVs, curriculum vitae, also known as resumes, depending on whereabouts you are in the world. And I can see that we've got Shasant joining us from Thailand. We've got Hasim joining us. I don't know where you're joining us from, so do let us know. We know that we do get an international audience. All our content is focused at the UK market because that's what we know about, but hopefully there'll be something, no matter where you're joining us from, that you'll be able to glean from today. All right then, so we're going to talk about building a CV, writing that cover letter, and then doing some things to get you ready for your job search. Okay, looking at market trends, seeing what's coming up, and how to set some of those all important career goals. Now, one of the things I started to mention was trends, changes in the marketplace. And although I hope you find today's webinar useful, one of the things we will be talking about is lots of people aren't ready right now for maybe the jobs they want to have in the future. And there's always a question, well, how do I get those skills I don't have? And if you're looking for those high demand, jobs of the future, and you want to be ready your skills for those jobs of the future, then it's worth checking out Google's flexible online training programs. So at the moment, for the career certificates, we have Google's career certificates. They are in those high growth, high demand careers, things like IT support, project management, data analytics, user experience design, and digital marketing. There's no relevant experience or a degree required. They are available across a lot of territories across the world, so worth checking out what's available where you are. In the UK, you can actually access Google's career certificates for free via scholarships that we do have available through selected partners. So the thing to do is head to goo.gle/career search UK and learn a little bit more there. And as I say, they are a global availability, so do check what's available in your territory as well. All right then, let's get down to it. Let's think about you. Let's think about you and your career and what you want to achieve, and have a little think. Use the chat function and let Tessa know. What do you want to do when you grow up? What are your career aspirations? All right. So what do you, when you see yourself in 1 year's time, 5 years' time, 10 years' time, what is it that you want to do? What do you, as I say, what do you want to be when you grow up? What field do you see yourself working in? Big company, small company, running your own business, even. Where do you see yourself going? Let Tessa know some of those aspirations, and we'll come back to some of those things. The reason I want you to start with almost the end point, if you like, is that if you think about what your goal is, what you want to achieve, it's then time to start plotting your routes towards that goal. So it's not just about doing more of what you're already doing. It's maybe thinking about, okay, this is where I want to go to the future. And then throughout the course of the session, we'll start to break that down into more manageable steps that might help you plot your course. You're probably not ready to take that jump into your dream job tomorrow, but how are you going to get yourself to the place where you want to be? And the aspiration doesn't have to be about financial, you know. It could be about, as I say, owning your own business, striking out on your own. It could be about finding a role that makes you feel fulfilled and happy and works around the way that you want to live your life. Whatever it is, have a think, jot it down for yourself, and do let Tessa know as well in the chat. So what we're going to start with today is a useful templated approach to building that CV, what we call the curriculum vitae or the resume. It's not the only way to do it, but I don't know if you've ever sat down to write about yourself, talk about yourself. A lot of people find that quite difficult. So what we're going to look at are some chunks of template that you can pull together. So rather than just having a whole blank sheet of paper, I'll get you to focus in on different areas as we go. Not all countries, not all industries have the same requirements when it comes to format, so do bear that in mind. You might need to be flexible depending on your industry, depending on your country, depending on the role you're going for. Whatever it is, you can use that to make those decisions. But what we will talk about right now is a quite useful short CV template. Okay, so have a think about it, and you can pop it into the chat if you like. What do you think is the purpose of your CV? So have a think, when we're writing a CV or a resume, what are we trying to achieve? Remember, we keep going back to that idea of actually what's the end point? What are we trying to do? Have a little think about it. And whilst you're doing that, I can see that Asim wants to run their own marketing business. We've got Smart Internet Lab who want to be a project coordinator. And we've got Arnella who wants to do data analytics. Fantastic. It's great to see that you've got some idea of what you want to do, as I say, when you grow up. So think about that primary purpose of a CV or a resume, all right? So that CV or resume is all about giving somebody a snapshot of who you are. In 1 or 2 pages, You can't possibly tell them everything they need to know about you. For me, the primary purpose of a CV is a kind of written summary that makes somebody want to meet you, wants to know more, that they think, aha, this is somebody, maybe it's your first impression. You get to do a written first impression that makes somebody think that person is worth seeing. Okay, I'm going to let you in. So I do, as I say, I've already mentioned that I do quite a bit of recruiting from the other side. And my job, when I initially get those CVs, I start with a stack of CVs, and I imagine them as paper. Most of the time now, of course, they're on the screen. And I start with a stack, and either physically or mentally, I have 3 piles. I have an outright yes, I need to see that person. I have an outright no pile, like that person does not give me enough in their CV to make me think they're worth seeing. And then I have my maybe pile. Maybe they could do it. Maybe there's something they're not telling me here. I want for you to get yourself straight onto that yes pile. The yes pile are the people I want to see that make it so easy for me to choose them. And so that's kind of, for me, the purpose, the point of your CV is to get them excited enough about you that they want to take you forward to that next step. All right, so curriculum vitae, what does it actually mean? Your curriculum vitae is actually, it translates to the course of your life. Cambridge English Dictionary state that a CV, curriculum vitae, is a short written description of your education, qualifications, previous jobs, and also your personal interests that you send to an employer when you're trying to get a job. So what I'm trying to encompass here is that your CV should reflect your life experience and not just be a list of the jobs you've had and a list of the certificates or the qualifications that you have. I want it to be more interesting than that. I want it to really explain your humanity, I guess, in a bit of a nutshell, really. So remember, it's that first contact with a potential employer, sometimes with a recruitment agency. Sometimes it's going to be sifted by a computer before you even get through to being seen by a person. Okay. So whenever your CV is, wherever it goes in the world, they're looking for a document that proves that you would be a good candidate to take forward to that next stage. You would be a good fit for the role on paper so that they want to meet you in person. All right, so you're going to want to summarize your relevant experience. All right, I'm going to talk about relevancy a lot in today's session, because I want you at every stage, don't have one CV that you just send out to everyone and hope it hits. That's just like throwing jelly at a wall and hoping some of it will stick. What I want for you to do is be really targeted, really hone in on, for this job, what are the things that I can do to prove that I should be on that yes pile? Okay, so it should be a summary of the relevant experience. I want you to have it goal orientated. Think about where you want to go, what you want to get, and show how this, and think about why this is a step on that road. I know sometimes we just have to get work, but we're much more likely to get that work if we can show that we're interested and keen to work for that company. And I need it to be authentic. I need it to be honest. I once remember interviewing a person who was definitely on the maybe pile when I went through my CV sifting. And we brought them in because we didn't have many on the outright yes pile. So I thought, right, well, we'll bring a couple in from the maybe pile. And he was very nervous. Younger chap, not too long out of studying. And he was obviously fairly nervous. Now, one of the things I will always do when I'm interviewing, I want you to feel comfortable, because I know I'm going to get the best from you if I can make you relax and feel comfortable. So one of the things I'll often do is ask about something on your CV that you say you're interested in. And this gentleman had said that he was interested in golf. Now, I'm not a big golfer. It's a very, very long walk. And it takes a long time, and maybe I don't want to, but I know enough about it that I thought, well, I can ask them the question and maybe get them talking about something they're interested in and get them to relax a little. So I asked if he played golf, and he said, yes, he did, because that's what he'd said on his CV. And I said, oh, what was his handicap? Which, for me to know about it, must be the kind of thing that most people who played golf would know. And he just looked at me like I had two heads. He didn't understand the question I was asking. And what it turned out was that he had thought that putting he liked golf or he played golf would look good on a business CV. The fact that he didn't do it, actually, it made me think, well, what else has he exaggerated? What else has he fibbed about? It probably meant that he'd been along and played a bit of crazy golf once or twice. So being authentic, being honest, owning your own story is really, really important, because there's absolutely no point getting yourself to the interview and then they want to meet the person who you wrote about on the paper, not the actual person that you are. So to find the right employers, to find the right employment, you're going to have to be honest. You're going to have to be authentic. And if people don't like it, then they're not going to be the right place for you anyway. All right. So be honest, be authentic, and be positive, but own your own story. So within your CV, all right, we've got those three key elements we want you to be telling, and really telling your story in the best possible light as is relevant to the employer is the kind of things we're going to need. So there's no universally accepted template, all right? And you might have seen other things, thought other things, but the kind of information that I, as a recruiter, am expecting to see on every single CV is I want to see some basic information. All right, so your basic information, we'll go through each of these stages in a minute. I want some basic information. I want a little summary that talks directly to me. I will quite often just skip straight to the summary and read the other parts later. But I want to see what you're telling me about who you are and why you want this role and what you want to do with it. Okay. Then we'll talk a little bit about work experience, a bit about your education and your achievements, and also an idea of what you think your skills are, your key strengths as well. All right. Your CV should not generally, exceptions do apply, but generally no longer than 2 pages. So when and think about it, that recruiter might be taking, 10, 15, 20 seconds, no more than a minute, doing that first pass, getting those CVs from the application pile through to yes, no, or maybe. So you don't have a lot of time. And we also do know that obviously some of those things, they are being machine read first. All right. So you need to tailor what you say to each individual job. No more than 2 pages. Don't tell them everything because they ain't going to read it. They've only got a short amount of time. So you really want to be pulling out just those key things that are relevant to this role. So your basic information, okay? Your name. They're going to need to know who you are, what to call you. Might be the location. I don't put my full written address. You never know. If your CV goes onto a jobs board, you never know where it ends up. So I kind of have the location as well as the town I live in. I might put the towns I'd be happy to travel to work in. Okay, so let's imagine I live in deepest Cheshire. Maybe I'm in a town called Crewe. There's a town in Cheshire called Crewe. Now, Crewe itself is quite small, but it's quite near some other towns, Nantwich and Northwich and Middlewich. But it's also on a main train line. And using that main train line, I could get to Manchester, I could get to Liverpool, I could even possibly at a push get down to Birmingham. So I then need to think, okay, well, where am I happy to work? Where am I prepared to commute to? And maybe list those as locations. One of the reasons for listing the towns as a location is imagine my CV's on a jobs board, a bulletin board, and somebody does a search. They're maybe unlikely to search for my exact postcode, but they might search for the big towns nearby. And by putting those things, those words in, I might make myself more findable. You're going to need contact information. Hopefully when they want to speak to you, you're going to have to give them how to speak to you. So a phone number and an email address. If you are job hunting and your phone goes with a number that you do not recognize, answer it, because that could be a prospective employer ringing you to invite you to interview. The number of times I've rung to try and book an interview with somebody and it's bounced to their voicemail, which is fine. and I've left them a message and told them how to do it. And then I've got to call back immediately going, you called me, but it's gone into the main switchboard reception number and they don't know who's called them. So if you're going to be applying for jobs, answer your phone, have a professional voicemail greeting, listen to the voice messages before you try and ring back. We'll always give you how to get back in touch with us, why we called and how to get back in touch. And look at what your email address says about you. If your address says Fred Footy Lover 1972, that might have been, funny as a way to set up your email. But actually, what does that say about you? As all of these little signs are showing how professional you are, how seriously you're taking this. I would also probably have, if you get a lot of junk mail, a lot of, spam filters and things on, you might want to have, you don't want your all-important job-related emails to get lost into your spam filter or into the hundreds of messages trying to sell you things every day. So you might decide to set up a very professional looking email address, just using one of the free, could be a Gmail address, could be one of the other free tools that you can have for a free email inbox, just for your job hunt. So you can keep all those emails in one place. And if you get a ping on that phone showing you there's a particular job to do, then you email come in rather on that email address, you notify to your phone and you get straight on it. Just little things you can start to do to really start making that easy. And you might need some other important information depending on the role you're going for. Do you have right to work in the territory that you're looking at? Nationalities, visas might be important. I don't particularly like it when people put their age and date of birth on there because I don't want to be biased for or against somebody depending on how old they were. But you might want to put that you drive or you have a driving license if you have a car. Think about the commute. How are you going to show it might be relevant for the role that it needs somebody who can go around the country. And depending on the kind of role, you might have a portfolio. You might have some accreditations that you want to put on to show that you are the right person, the right certificates or experience, specific things that are going to be fixed for that role. So that's the kind of basics. Now we get into that really important opening summary. And this is the part I read. This is the part I advise you to tailor to every single job you go for. And it sounds like a lot. But actually, you'll start to come up with a few phrases. What I want to see is a few sentences that describe who you are, why you're looking for this kind of work, something that makes you stand out. And I want you to reflect the language of the job advert, the language of the company or the recruiter that you're talking to. It works like an introduction to you, an introduction to your CV. They don't know anything about you and they might only read a few sentences. So describe who you are, describe what you can do for an employer. All right. A CV's elevator pitch. If you only had a minute going from the bottom floor to the top floor, what would you need people to know about you? And don't be afraid of telling your story. You need to, sometimes I'll get people and they'll apply for a role and they'll have no relevant experience, or on the face of it, no relevant experience. Now, why did they apply for that role? Is that just because they're applying for hundreds of roles? Or is it because they do actually have something relevant, or they're trying to change careers, or they want to achieve something and they just haven't told me? So in that opening summary, it might be, you're returning to work after a break. It might be that you're looking to change careers into a higher growth area. It might be that, I had one I saw, it was very good. They said they'd been in a caring role for their parents and they're now looking to take on a more substantial work role because they were now in the position to do so. And actually, as a recruiter, I really valued that honesty and that authenticity. If you lack experience, highlight your skills, highlight your education. You might have unpaid work experience. You might have volunteer work. You might want to talk about your overall career goals, overall ambitions. Where are you heading? Where are you going? Okay. Think about what that. Now, when it comes to work experience, I'm going to talk about work experience and all these things in order. Each of these chunks, you can build them up separately, and then later you'll slot them in the right order for you. There's no hard and fast rules. We'll have a look at a couple of templates. But a few things when completing your work experience, it's best to do it in what we call reverse chronological order. That means the most recent at the top, okay? The dates, the locations, the names of the employer, your job title, any key projects, and any key results that you had direct influence in achieving. Make sure that you use language that reflects the language that's being used. If the job advert, the job description is telling you it wants a certain kind of experience, then make sure if you've got that experience, you highlight it. So don't list every single thing you ever did in that role. Pick out one or two things you did that would show that you're relevant. I remember very early in my career, I actually successfully got taken on for a role. And it wasn't my most recent piece of experience that had made me stand out. I had actually, when I was studying at university, I had taken a job in the evenings. I was working on the telephone on basically a complaints line. People would ring me when their parcels hadn't turned up. So it took a bit of a beating, and it was lots of problem solving, lots of smoothing over problems. And actually, it was something I had put in that role that 2 years later, there was something that they said, right, that resilience, that idea of being able to talk to all kinds of different people when they were maybe having problems. And that got me a much more, it took me that next step on my career at the time. So try and include any interests that match the requirements of the job you're going for. And here again, you probably want to be tinkering with the language, reflect the language that they're looking at as we go through. And if you don't have any paid work, that's okay. Include volunteer work. When you're doing volunteering, you've absolutely got a lot to be saying about that, okay? Similarly, with your education and your achievements and your qualifications, start with the most relevant at the top. Even if they are lower qualifications than than the ones you took maybe when you were at school or college or at university or what have you, I like to see that if somebody's keeping themselves up to date, that they maybe take an extra certificate, even to show that you're a lifelong learner, maybe you've taken something completely different. Anything that shows your capacity, your aptitude, your passion for learning can go in here. So start with the qualifications you've had, the schools, the colleges, most recent first, and work your way back. The only time I would say that might not be, if you have, qualifications that are absolutely fundamental to you be able to get the role, you might want to highlight those first. You have the accountancy certificate or whatever it happens to be, and then maybe list your other certifications that aren't maybe as relevant to the role. Okay. Any key projects there, any research. There again, a lovely CV I saw was they were trying to get a role within financial. And one of the modules, they wanted to tell the story of why they were going for a job in finance. So they told the story of one of the modules that they had taken in their wider business qualification, and that they said was really interesting, that they'd talked about some of the things they'd studied, just to show that they were actually interested in this particular role, not just any old job they can do. And obviously, we don't always have work experience. We don't always have education and achievements. Where you put these things, is going to change as you go through your career. When you first get your first jobs after school or college, your education achievements are going to be front and center. As you build up that work experience, they may work their way down, and your work experience will work its way up to the top. No hard and fast rules. It's all about what works best for you. And the final section we're going to talk about is your skills and your strengths. Think about how somebody else might describe you as a person. What qualities have you got? They might be things like resilience, hardworking, personable, friendly, diligent, whatever these things are. You've got qualities that describe you as a person, your strengths. You then might have some skills, soft skills, being able to get on with people, technical skills, particular certification or particular ability to run a certain piece of software. And when you're thinking about choosing the skills and strengths that you highlight, think back to that job description. How are they relevant? All right. So we've mentioned already soft skills, hard skills, digital skills, really important. Soft skills are those kind of interpersonal skills. Your harder skills are your certifiable skills. And thinking about, as we move into a more and more digital world, your digital skills are going to be really important as well. Here we are: leadership, teamwork, communication, resilience. All those soft skills are the things that we think, those things that describe us. Okay, hard skills. Yeah, can you speak another language? Do you have a particular certificate or a particular technological program you can use? Digital wise, using of computer programs, coding, video editing, social media. All of you young people, you already have, as digital natives, mad digital skills that you probably don't even realize as such, you know. So have a look, maybe do a few courses that help you to understand how, you know, valuable some of those digital skills are for you in the modern workplace. Here we've got some ideas, and those soft skills there are in grey. So teamwork, project management, communication skills. Technical skills there in blue, being able to do video edit, scuba dive, complex logistics, all of those things that you have learned, things that you have practiced, things that you can certify and show that you can do. And be sure to use relevant keywords. You reflect the language for the position you're targeting. And that's especially true of the internet. Don't fluffy it up with all kinds of language that sounds great if you read it and understand it. Get straight to the point with what the people are looking for. Okay. So if you need a little bit of help thinking about those skills and the strengths, we do have a webinar that we sometimes run that's called Find Your Career Goals, or if you get to see us in person, sometimes we're able to run that. And one of the things we recommend is sometimes you ask other people to help you define what you're good at, what your strengths are. So what are you good at? What do you like doing? I say this too often to people. Don't just go for the role that you think you should go for, your parents think you should go for, or friends are going for. What do you actually like doing? Of all the things you could choose to do, what is it that you enjoy? The more you can build your career with those sorts of things in it, the further you're going to go and the happier you're going to be. And is there anything that makes you stand out from the crowd? What achievements have you got? What successes do you have? You know, what's really important to you? As I say, it's good to ask other people because, you know, they might see things in you that you just think, oh, well, that's just who I am. That's just how I am. That's just how everyone is. And you might not actually recognize that being able to make people feel comfortable when they first arrive in a room, being able to talk to different people, what have you, are all really good skills if it's just something you can naturally do. So the kinds of strengths, here we go. Enjoy helping people, being adaptable, being really self-disciplined and self-motivated, being dependable. I know that when I call Tessa, she's going to get that work done, you know. Being dependable, knowing they're going to be there on time, knowing people are going to work hard, give their best. Always be positive. Attack things in a really great way. Be caring, look out for other people. So think about the different kinds of words people would use to describe you and see how you can build those in. Make sure as well that you can think of a couple of examples of times when you did this, because that's a question you're going to be asked as well later on. So when you're thinking about that experience, one of the questions we get a lot is, well, how can I showcase the experience all right? So first of all, your experience does not have to have been gained in a paid capacity. All right. So especially when we're starting out, or maybe we're career changing, or maybe it's been a while since we've applied for a job. You know, how do we get experience if we've not had any experience yet? All right. So think about all the things that could feel a bit work-like. All right. So any hobbies you do, extracurricular stuff. If you're involved in, say, football or music, can you take on a deeper role within that? Can you help organise the matches? Can you book the buses or get involved in running the club, looking after the younger people, being a coach? All of those things will start to show dependability. People depend on you to be there. They'll start to show maybe some administrative skills, some organising skills. Think if you can take what you already do and just get a little bit of extra on there. Might be volunteering. Volunteer roles show lots of things. One, they give you a chance to develop skills that maybe nobody's quite ready to pay you for yet. But also there's something about seeing volunteer work on a CV that makes me think, oh, that person cares for something more than just themselves, more than the day-to-day. They're interested enough and caring enough that they put themselves out to help other people. Any work experience you've had, maybe you could get a part-time job. If you had a part-time job, just as I did when I was studying, maybe it's as a barista. Don't just put that it doesn't matter because it wasn't the field I want to go into. As a barista, you were looking at dealing with customers. You were looking at maybe dealing with money. You were dependable because somebody trusted you to open up in the morning, to deal with those customer complaints, to be organised when it was really busy and get the jobs done all the time. Think of all those things that go into everything you do every day that will highlight particular strengths you've got and maybe make up for the fact that you don't have that paid experience. So when you're thinking about all those things that you've done in the past, try and next bit of homework for you, think, right, well, what did I do in that role, at that job, at that volunteering? What was it I actually did? And how's that relevant to this job I'm going for? Did I achieve anything? What did I achieve? Put numbers around it if you can, but really keep tying it back to the role you're going for. Dealing with customers showed that I could be trusted, showed I could work under pressure, showed I was hardworking, dependable, reliable, all those wonderful things, even if it doesn't relate directly to the data analytics role you're going for. All of those lovely strengths that you've developed are really important. Okay, so you can search up on the web and look for templates that are designed for various job hunting roles. I've popped a couple of examples just up on the screen for you. The reason we do this is, well, just to show that there's no right or wrong format. As I say, we tend to think a couple of pages. I'd always, if I'm honest with you, my name goes at the top and my contact details are actually in the footer of every page. I have my name at the top and my job title, or the job title I'm looking for, at the top, and my email and phone number at the bottom. And then I have quite prominently a little summary, my story, paragraph or two telling me about those things. Now, unfortunately for me, it's a long time since I was in education. So that goes quite a way back. And I've got my experience, but that moves around depending on what you want. Have each area clearly labelled and make it easy to scan down and promote the content that you're really proud of, that you want to draw attention to. Okay, got a couple of formats, how it might look. I much prefer the first one. Very clear, very easy to tell what's going on. It's not, here we've got something, this is just lists of things. It's got superfluous information on it and half of it's taken up with a big picture. We don't need a picture on our CVs. I do realise that in some countries it's expected, but otherwise it's not something I would put on. So the first one here, it's clean, it's professional, and it's easy to read. Those clear sections of what's going on are really helping. Black text on white page is easier to read. The only thing I would say about this one is these pink headings maybe are a little bit difficult to see. So I would maybe be looking at ways to highlight those in a different way. Okay, so just as a sum up of CVs, write in a clear, concise manner. It's not just about what you put in, it's what you leave out that's important. Allow the most important points to shine by not hiding them in a load of word soup. Any gaps in your CV, be transparent about. Did you have caring responsibilities? What were you doing? I took an extended period of maternity leave, and it says that. But it also talks about the volunteering I did when I was raising a child as well. And get somebody to read it, get a second opinion, get a third opinion. Get somebody you trust to read over your CV. They are going to see things that you might not have spotted yourself. All right, I'm going to check in with blah, blah, bum, bum, bum. Okie dokie. So main question we've got is from Naeem about ATS systems, applicant tracking systems. So this is about getting past the computer software. Hopefully some of the techniques of reflecting in the language, Naeem, are going to really help you there, making sure that you use the language and you reflect back. I'm going to tell you now, I was helping a company, and we weren't using actual applicant tracking software. I was reading all of these CVs myself, but to be honest, I had 10 applications for one role, and not one of them felt like they'd actually read the job description. They hadn't tailored it at all, and they'd applied without any real showing me how they had any relevant experience whatsoever. So tailoring, even though you know it's going to go through a computer, tailor each role. Don't just send out application after application after application. I'd much rather spend a lot of time making it right for one role than getting it wrong for 10. Okay. All right, let's jump in on cover letters. So here we're getting a templated approach that's useful to send with your CV. Cover letter, what is it? Well, it's a letter that goes along with your CV. And it's another chance for you to shine, to tailor what you're saying to the particular role you're going for, to tell your story, especially as if you maybe haven't taken such a straight route through your career so far. So it shows a little more personality, it shows a little more depth. It also shows you've read the job application and you're not just sending application after application. I always ask for a cover letter with my CVs when I'm doing applications. And 40% of recruiters say exactly the same. And the reason I do it is because, to be honest, if you haven't read the detail of me asking you for a letter and you're not interested enough in the role to do as I ask, then I'm not interested enough in what you've got to say, especially if I've got lots of people who could fill that one role. So if you're asked for a cover letter, make sure you write one. 40% of recruiters say that they do look for cover letters with their applications, and that if they have, exactly as I said, if I've asked you for a cover letter and you don't give me one, 45% of those people say that they will just completely reject the CV because you haven't followed the steps. You haven't cared enough to do that for me. So that all said, how on earth do you start with a blank piece of paper and write something about yourself? We've already said with CVs how difficult it is. So here's another little template for you, okay? And we're going to start by saying hello, write a bit of an introduction, summarize yourself. Don't just cut and paste from your CVs here. Then we're going to think about problems and solutions, and I'll explain what I mean about that in just a moment. Any relevant achievements, and signing off. Now, actually, those main parts, saying hello and signing it off, if you can get the hello right and the goodbye right, it should be fairly easy. It's actually only 4 areas to think about. And as those achievements are only there if they're really, really relevant, it's only really 3 key areas I want you to think of. See, I'm making it easier already. So saying hello, it's about keeping it an appropriate level of formality. Don't say hi. You probably want to say dear somebody, hello. If you know the person who's recruiting, if you know their name, use it. If not, you might want to use the job title for the attention of. Just get yourself going, all right? Really importantly is this introduction. Who are you? What are you interested in? And why do you think, they'd want to hear from you? So bear in mind as well that they might be recruiting for several different jobs. So it's worth saying what the job you applied for was. And also a really good way to get going is to say the job where you heard about it. Hi, I'm Christine. I'm a digital marketing trainer. I'm applying for the role of digital marketing trainer that I read about on your website. Really simple, easy to get going. Eases you into with a few basic facts of who you are. So there again, we've now got 2 sections blocked off, as well as the end part as well. All right. When we get into the really important part is your next 3 lines, your next paragraph, we call it. Really sell you, really talk about who you are and what you're all about. we go back to those strengths that we've already identified. So take that time to make a list of your strong points, your achievements. Maybe you've been complimented on being something. Maybe people say you're really organized, you're really helpful. What's important to you? What do you enjoy? Okay. It's hard to do this. It is hard to sell yourself. So don't forget to ask a friend to tell you what they think you're good at. You might get that outside perspective. So think up a couple of sentences. What's important? What are you good at? What do you enjoy? Don't just copy and paste the summary from your CV. And I would use this to highlight 2 or 3 things that are absolutely critical to this particular job. If it says it needs organization, if it says it needs perseverance, hardworking, timekeeping, whatever it is, highlight a couple of those things that truly authentically describe who you are and what you do. Okay. Now, the next is my favorite part of the cover letter, and it's problem and solution. So what I want you to do is think about what problem the company has. And then in a moment, we're going to show how you are a great solution to their problem. And it's weird to think of a job advert as being a problem. But actually, the problem for lots of businesses is they need people. They need the right people to work in their business, or they can't grow. They can't service their customers well. So think about, for this particular company, this particular role, what problem are they telling you that they have? They might say at the beginning of the job description, due to continued expansion. Okay, so the problem is they're growing and they need new people. Maybe saying following a promotion. You know, somebody's been promoted through the company. Maybe they've won a piece of business and they need more people to come and do it. Okay. So think about for that company, what problem do they have? The problem is they're growing and they need more people. The problem is they want to give better customer service than they possibly can. The problem might be, well, have a look at the job description itself. Check out the language they use. Do some research on the company. Maybe they've just won a project. Maybe they're expanding. Maybe they're changing where their offices are. Maybe something's going on in regulations. One of an early job I had was because there'd been an industry-wide issue and they needed people from outside the industry to come in and give it a fresh pair of eyes. So they needed loads of people. We are currently in the middle of a digital skills crisis. We need tons of people with digital skills to help companies to survive and thrive. So think of what problems that company might have. It might be that, it's a really busy role and you need to showcase what skills you have that will show why you would be a great solution for them. Maybe it's your enthusiasm, maybe it's your timekeeping, maybe you can juggle lots of different things at once. If the company's growing, it's a really busy environment, it will tell you these things in the job description. So make a list of the needs of the company and then try and match up what you can offer from your skills. Okay, I'll show you a worked example in just a minute. Block 5 is optional. It's only if it's relevant. Don't fill it out. Don't pad this out with words. A good cover letter is a short one. But if you do have anything, if you've done digital certifications, if you volunteered, if you have language skills or you can drive, maybe that's relevant to the role. So maybe you can pop it in here. As I say, it's just a little sparkle paragraph if you need it. And then you sign off the letter. Thank you for considering me. I look forward to hearing from you. If you need any more information, please do let me know. Many thanks. Match your style of your opening with the style of your closing. And there you are. You're free to do it. Okay. So really important, we've spoken about it a few times, is all about tailor. Make sure you look at what you've got and showcase the things that they need to hear. All right. And it's not just employed jobs that you might use a CV for. It might be if you're looking for self-employed work as a freelancer or a creative. You might need a portfolio to show projects you've worked on before. How are you going to build that? How are you going to show off what you can do? If you're starting at the bottom or you're trying to change directions, it might be that you really have to focus on some of those skills and strengths you've had or those qualifications you've got. Make sure you include all of the relevant things for the particular role you're going for. Let's have a look. So here we go. Dear Mrs. Webb, great strong start. Dear and the person's name. I'm a customer assistant. I'm currently employed by these people. I want to apply for this role that I found on this job. Easy peasy, first 2 blocks for you. This is where it gets good. Summarize yourself. I would describe myself as, think of 3 things that make you special. Friendly, helpful, and patient. I've been praised for. That's brilliant, because that's not you saying this. This is somebody else. That's that social proof that it makes it so good. And then your problem-free solution. I think I'd be a great fit for this role because I pride myself in doing these things. I'm used to doing these other things. All right. Here it says, I think I'd be a great fit for the role because I pride myself in being to cope well under stress. They have identified that this is a busy role. And to be good at this role, you're going to have to be calm, deal with customers, and cope well under stress. And they've absolutely identified that and spoken directly to that recruiter. I know the problem you've got. This is how I'm great at fixing it. Okay. Then we think about maybe our relevant achievements. Here they talking about maybe they've not got that much work experience, so they talk about their volunteer role, or they're taking a short part-time course, or they speak different languages, whatever it is that might give it that little extra sparkle, only if it's relevant. And then they've done the sign-off that I'm really honoured to be considered for this position. Please do contact me if there's anything else you'd like to know. Okay. All right, then. We're coming towards the end of our time together. I can see we've got no more questions coming through just at the minute. You've got about another 7 or 8 minutes to ask Tessa any questions you have, whilst I think about how job searches work. All right. So before you start applying to those jobs, I want you to think about the best places to look, the best places to identify the roles for you to take your next steps into. So we do talk about it in some of our other webinars. It's absolutely worth, I think, if you check out, we've got a webinar called Build Your Personal Brand Online. And it's all about working out what's out there about you already and using your digital presence to enhance, not detract from, the roles you're going for. Because the first thing somebody is going to do when you go from the application stage to the yes or the maybe, quite often, in fact, I think, here we go, 90% of recruiters will check. They'll do a search for you on Google, look for your name. They might check social media profiles. They're going to learn more about you by what you put out to the world. So think about, and this is why we talk about the digital footprint on the previous slide, any content you share. How have you locked down the privacy on your social media accounts, or is it dead easy to find out about you? What does the content you're sharing yourself, but also what the pages that you follow, the pages that you're tagged in, what do they say about you? So be really disciplined about your social media presence. Social media is a fantastic tool to get yourself seen and in a positive light. Just do a search for yourself and make sure that you don't detract from your application at all. After employee referrals and their own website, the third most popular way of finding new employees is through social media. So if there are companies you'd like to work for, companies that are local to you in your local area that you want to work for, follow them on their social media. See what they're talking about. That's going to be a great way to identify maybe what problems they have that you might be a great solution for. And check it out. I found my favorite ever job, other than this one, of course. I was following a charity because I really liked their work and I was actually considering volunteering for them. And then a role came along that they wanted somebody, they needed a trainer. And I was like, wait a minute, I could do that. And I found their role because I was following them on social media. Absolutely worth doing. A third of employers are using social media to find new recruits, and that is only going to grow. It's dead simple. I pop a job advert on my own website and post it out on my own socials. It's the quickest, easiest, cheapest way to go about finding new recruits. So think about that personal brand, all right? Take a look homework for you for the rest of today, or maybe over the weekend. Take a look over your socials. What do they say about you? Can you be found? As I say, we have a webinar called Build Your Personal Brand Online. Next time that's being broadcast, grab a look at it, see what it says. But join in those discussions, network with people, share good content, comment on people's content, get involved and be sociable on social media. Okay. When you are thinking about what role to take, don't just think big. Think of where you want to go to and then plot the course that you want to take. Okay, really deeply think about what those roles entail though. You know, just don't go for it because everybody else seems to be wanting to do it, or it looks great on the social media when you see somebody doing that role. Really research the role itself, the requirements for it, and make sure you think about whether you would be happy in doing it. So we've got some tools that you might want to look at to look for jobs. Let me know what's relevant in your area. You know, what tools are out there, any tools that you're currently using. We like to break these down into, you know, kind of the search engines. You can absolutely use search engines. Bing, Yahoo, Google. Google has its own jobs board where it pulls in jobs from all kinds of different places. Then there are the traditional, I guess you'd call them, jobs boards, things like Reed, Total Jobs, Indeed, where people post jobs to them and you can apply directly on those platforms. But don't forget your professional networks. Things like LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a great tool for doing this. If you're in a community and people are looking for roles, let them know you're looking for work and talk to people. Ask for help. You know, if you hear about anybody looking for whatever the role is, then do please let me know. Okay. So when it comes to that search, as I mentioned, Google's jobs board provides a range of opportunities for candidates to search on. So as you can imagine, the search would be brilliant for it. Jobs near me, jobs in a particular location, job titles near you, specific categories. You can look at them by when they were posted, what sector they're in, maybe the kind of employer, or, you know, you can also get it to start suggesting jobs to you once it knows a little bit more about what you're looking for. You can view those job descriptions and then you can click through and apply on the company's own websites. All right. In all of this, remember, in terms of making sure that you're applying for the right jobs, okay, have a think about what those daily tasks, those daily responsibilities would be. Really, you know, if you're going for a role and you think, right, I'm going to go for a data analyst role, but you don't actually like numbers or repetitive tasks, or you're not very comfortable manipulating data, then maybe it's not the right job for you. So really think in depth about the day-to-day, what happens, what you need to do. Think about if there are any specific skills, any qualifications, any experience required for the role. Don't apply immediately for the head of if you've never even worked in the area. Think that you're probably going to have to start your way at the bottom and work your way up, and show that you're prepared and willing and able to do that. By committing to personal development, take some certificates. You can go online and find free certifications, free courses, free learning in all kinds of different subjects. You can learn pretty much anything on YouTube, for example. And make sure that you're realistic about the salary expectations and also about the location. Don't get yourself a job where you actually end up unable to go because the commute is such a drag. You know, I've got a pal who's currently changing jobs because 6 months ago they thought that they'd be able to do the 1.5 hour commute each way. And actually the reality of it is it's absolutely killing them, so they can't do it. So they are going to have to look for something else. All right, so try not to make those kinds of mistakes. And while you're at it, try and match your values to the role you're going for. You know, try and make sure that the place that you were going to spend so much of your time and so much of your energy fits in with your values. So read about them on the website and see whether it is going to be a good fit. If it's a good fit for you, it's going to be so much more seamless to be able to get that job. And if you've ever done any kind of objective setting, we know our objectives should be SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Set yourself those small steps that are going to get you to that longer-term goal eventually. So here's a question for you. What are your career goals? Let's do it for the next year. Let Tessa know by the beginning of June 2024, what do you want to have achieved? Tell the universe, because that really helps. I know that Tessa has been answering questions as you go, which is great because we are just about to run out of time. So for your next steps, have a think about it. What is it that you're going to those little steps you're going to take to get you to that? It might be join us for some more of our webinars. It might be to sign up and check out those free Google Careers certificates at goo.gle/career cert UK. If you're in a different territory, look at Think with Google and see what learning they have in your area as well. Other than that, thank you so much for your questions. I've got to wrap up here as I've run out of time again, but I hope it's been useful to you in terms of thinking about your CV or your resume and your cover letter, and then some ideas for where next to go with your job search. We've got tons more Google Digital Garage webinars coming your way, so do keep an eye on our website. It's linked in the description below. That will tell you the sorts of things we've got coming up. Other than that, I hope it's sunny where you are, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for joining today. Tessa and I look forward to welcoming you again to another Google Digital Garage training session sometime soon. Thank you.